The entire restaurant went silent when the little girl suddenly stood up from her wheelchair and ran across the room. Her mother, one of the richest women in America, froze in disbelief. Her daughter had not taken a single step in years. But now she was running straight toward a quiet single dad sitting alone at a nearby table. Nobody understood what was happening. But what this little girl did next would reveal a secret that had been hidden for years, and prove that sometimes, the smallest act of kindness can change a person's entire life. Before we begin, make sure you subscribe to Whispered Maybe Stories, hit the like button, and tell us in the comments where you're watching from. Now, let's begin this unforgettable story. Victoria Bennett had everything money could buy. She owned luxury hotels, private jets, beautiful homes, and a company worth billions of dollars. But there was one thing money could never give her, her daughter's ability to walk. Her 8-year-old daughter, Emma, had been paralyzed after a terrible accident when she was 5. Since that day, Victoria had spent millions on doctors, therapists, and experimental treatments. But nothing worked. Emma had slowly learned to accept her wheelchair. She smiled often, but Victoria could see the sadness behind that smile. One rainy Saturday evening, Victoria brought Emma to an elegant restaurant for a charity dinner. The room was filled with wealthy business owners, celebrities, and powerful people. Then Emma noticed a man sitting alone near the window. His name was Daniel Carter. To everyone else, Daniel looked like an ordinary single father wearing an old gray shirt and jeans. But nobody in that restaurant knew that Daniel had once served as a Navy SEAL. After leaving the military, Daniel had chosen a quiet life. He worked hard, raised his young son, and tried to leave his painful memories behind. That evening, Daniel noticed Emma struggling to reach a napkin that had fallen from her table. Without thinking twice, he stood up. He walked over, picked it up, and handed it to her. Then he smiled. "Here you go, sweetheart." Emma looked at him carefully. "Thank you," she whispered. Daniel noticed the sadness in her eyes. "You know something," he said gently. "My son tells me that sometimes people don't need someone to fix their problems. They just need someone to believe in them." Emma smiled. Victoria watched from across the room. She was used to people treating her differently because of her wealth. Most people wanted something from her. But Daniel hadn't even asked her name. He simply helped her daughter. A few minutes later, Daniel returned to his table. Then something unbelievable happened. Emma slowly pushed herself forward. She placed both hands on the sides of her wheelchair and tried to stand. Victoria immediately jumped up. "Emma, don't." But Emma didn't stop. Her legs trembled. She took one tiny step. Then another. The restaurant became completely silent. Victoria covered her mouth in shock. Emma suddenly let go of the wheelchair and ran straight toward Daniel. Daniel stood up just as the little girl crashed into his arms. He caught her gently. Victoria couldn't breathe. Her daughter hadn't walked in 3 years. Doctors had told her that Emma might never walk normally again. Yet here she was. Standing. Moving. Smiling. Daniel looked at Victoria with confusion. "I don't understand," he said. Victoria's eyes filled with tears. "Neither do I." She rushed toward them and knelt beside Emma. "Sweetheart, how did you do that?" Emma pointed at Daniel. "He told me to believe in myself." Victoria looked at Daniel. "Who are you?" Daniel hesitated. "Just a dad." But Victoria noticed something strange. The way he stood. The way his eyes scanned the room. The small scar near his jaw. The calmness in his movements. Then Daniel's phone rang. He stepped away and answered it. Victoria overheard only a few words. "Yes, sir. I understand. But that part of my life is over." When he ended the call, Victoria realized there was much more to this quiet man than he had revealed. Later that evening, Emma asked Daniel if he would come visit her rehabilitation center. Daniel agreed. For the next several weeks, Daniel spent time with Emma, not as a doctor, and not as a therapist, but simply as someone who believed in her. He encouraged her to stand. He celebrated every tiny movement. When she fell, he never told her she had failed. He simply said, "You didn't lose. You learned something. Victoria watched her daughter change. Emma became stronger, happier, and more confident. One afternoon, Victoria finally asked Daniel why he cared so much. Daniel looked down at his hands. Because when I came home from the military, I didn't know how to live anymore. People saw a strong soldier. They didn't see a man who was struggling. One stranger showed me kindness when I needed it most. I never forgot that. Victoria's eyes filled with tears. So you're helping Emma because someone once helped you. Daniel smiled. Kindness shouldn't end with us. Those 4 words stayed with Victoria. She had spent years believing that money could solve every problem. Now she understood something different. Sometimes a person doesn't need a billionaire. They don't need a perfect doctor. They don't even need a miracle. Sometimes they simply need someone to look at them and say, I believe in you. Months later, Emma took her first steps without anyone holding her hand. Victoria cried. Daniel cried too. And Emma laughed. But the greatest change wasn't in Emma's legs. It was in Victoria's heart. She began visiting children's hospitals, funding rehabilitation programs, and quietly helping families who couldn't afford treatment. She never put her name on the donations. When reporters asked why, she simply said, because kindness isn't about being recognized. It's about making someone's life a little lighter. And Daniel? He remained the same humble single dad who had walked into a restaurant one evening and offered a little girl nothing more than a smile and a few encouraging words. That simple kindness had changed Emma's life. And Emma had changed Victoria's. So remember, you never know what someone is carrying inside. A stranger may be fighting a battle you cannot see. Your smile, your patience, your helping hand, or one simple sentence of encouragement could become the reason they don't give up. Kindness doesn't have to be expensive. It only has to be genuine. Because sometimes, one small act of kindness can give someone the courage to take their next step.